Christmas can sometimes feel so heavy. If you're feeling this way, you are not alone. It causes sadness when I think about that. Whenever I look back to how we celebrated Christmas and the holidays before, it's bringing back good memories, of course. But now thinking that it is so impossible to do that, it brings loneliness, sadness. Welcome to the How Much More stories, where we look at the good in us to see the how much more in God. To those of you who journeyed with me through the Fear God series, I would like to thank you. And if you are here right now and you haven't watched that, you can go back to this playlist that I'll pop up somewhere and listen to how we must fear the God of how much more. And that when we do that, things in our lives change for the better. And so, thank you for those who have watched that, have journeyed with me in that series. Thank you so much. Share that with a friend on your socials so that we would encourage everyone to fear God, especially in our time today, in our culture today. We must somehow resurrect our fear of God, because that can lead us to make even wiser decisions in our lives. And today, we are starting a brand new series, and I entitled this series Light in the Darkness, our special Christmas season series. We're starting with a topic that isn't often discussed during the holidays, and how Christmas can sometimes feel so heavy. For many, this season doesn't bring the joy and magic that the culture promises, right? You're probably watching this right now and you don't feel Christmassy. Instead, it's a time of stress, a time of loneliness, or even sadness, a time of depression, a time of anxiety. If you're feeling this way, you're not alone. You're not alone. There's a good news. There's hope in the true meaning of Christmas. But before we go there, I acknowledge that there is even, as psychologists would say, in this time of the year, during the winter season, during the holiday seasons, there's this what they call the seasonal depression, wherein when the winter comes, especially here in the West and parts of Asia as well, in the East, in the Northern Hemisphere, people are more depressed. People are more anxious. People are more lonely at this time of the year. I've read researches that says, probably it's because we don't see greens anymore. All we see are, trees that are gray, and then we see white, and then we see black, and that's it. Part of it, they say, is because we don't have enough sunlight. It goes dark early, like 4:30, 5 p.m. It's already very dark outside. And then the sun would rise late in the morning as well, like 7:30 a.m. So part of those things are those reasons, and a lot more. And I have friends, I have people in the church who've reached out who are depressed. And my hope and my prayer that this series would be a wonderful time for us to gather, you and me, and just sit through the things that we are feeling in this season. Just sit through the depression, sit through the anxiety, and welcome them and process them together. Shoving them under the rug won't work, but dealing with it will work. It takes work. I'm saying work a lot of times. But it takes work to deal with anxiety, depression, loneliness, sadness. But the work is worth it. And there is hope. That's one thing I would like you to know. Yes, this time of the year we will feel depression, loneliness, anxiety. But there is hope. There is hope. Now, another reason, and this is a lot of people agree on this, a lot of psychologists, a lot of like professionals in their fields agree on this, that the culture has a big effect on why people feel depressed at this time of the year. Think about the images of Christmas, right? The images of Christmas and the holidays is a perfectly decorated home, expensive gifts under the tree, families laughing and enjoying together. But you see, these images set an unrealistic expectation. Let me repeat that. These images, perfect tree, perfect gifts, expensive gifts, family gathering, laughing together, playing games and whatnot. Now, these things set unrealistic expectations, creating a cultural pressure that's hard to escape. We're told that a successful Christmas depends on how much we spend, how much we do, how happy we appear in our pictures in social media, in our family gatherings. It's no surprise that this leads to anxiety. Study shows that rates of stress and depression often peak during this season, again because of financial restraint from gift giving, grief or loneliness when family gatherings don't meet expectations, or when loved ones are absent. You see, when family gathers, all of these issues would pop up, and sometimes you would just leave, sometimes chaos would happen, and we feel depressed because of those things. The feeling that we must put on a happy face even at a difficult time. This cultural version of Christmas often offers temporary happiness that's tied to circumstances, and for many, those circumstances fall short. You see, as an immigrant here in the US, we don't have a lot of family here. I would always say that our family is complete with me, Shani, my wife, and our son, Haniel, and that's it. We're complete. And I truly believe that. But you see, as Filipinos, we are so accustomed that during this holidays, this specific holiday, Christmas, New Year, that our relatives, our extended families would gather. And that's hard and impossible for us to do at the moment. See, we're here in the US. My side of the family is in Cavite. Well, most of them are in Cavite. My sister's now in South Korea. My brother's now in Saudi Arabia. And then my in-laws, Shani's side of the family, are in Baguio City. Some of them are not in Baguio City as well. So you see, it causes sadness when I think about that. Whenever I look back to how we celebrated Christmas and the holidays before, it's bringing back good memories, of course. But now thinking that it is so impossible to do that, it brings loneliness, sadness. So you see, this cultural expression of this holiday is making people lonely, sad, anxious, and depressed. But as I reflect on what Christmas really is, I have come to realize that there's a good news. Yes, we cannot do that anymore. But the real meaning of Christmas isn't found in the gathering of families, in the gifts that we give, in the lights that we have, in the decors that we have at home, in these cultural traditions or material things. It is found in the person of Jesus. And that in itself is more than enough to give joy in my heart this Christmas season. See, the first Christmas wasn't a picture-perfect Christmas either. Let's step back in time in the story of Jesus' birth. Mary and Joseph weren't wealthy or comfortable. They were ordinary people caught in difficult circumstances. If you remember the Christmas story, right? They traveled from Bethlehem because of a government decree, not because they wanted to. They traveled a long way. And just imagine how hard that is at that time. They don't have transportation as we have today. Having a pregnant wife, traveling at that time, it's hard. And then Mary gave birth in a stable, a manger, surrounded by animals, because there was no room for them in the inn. See, it wasn't, now we see it as a good picture, right? The nativity scene, but that wasn't a pleasing time for them. It wasn't. Giving birth at a stable in a cold winter night, that's hard. And the world into which Jesus was born, it was full of political oppression, poverty, and uncertainty. Sounds so familiar, right? Sounds like the world we live in today. The heaviness we feel today mirrors the brokenness, of the world back then. But into that darkness, God sent a light. His Son, Jesus Christ. Isaiah chapter 9 verse 2 says, "The people walking in darkness have seen a great light. On those living in the land of deep darkness, a light has dawned." This verse points to Jesus, who came to bring hope and joy, not through ideal circumstances, but through His presence. There is joy in the presence of Jesus Christ. So I hope and pray that when Christmas comes, when this season comes, we should focus on not on the cultural version of Christmas where left feeling empty because it depends on things we can't control, money, family dynamics, or how perfect everything looks. But when we shift our focus and not think of those things, but rather focus on Jesus, we find something deeper and lasting. First, we find hope. Jesus' birth reminds us that God keeps His promises. He sent a Savior to rescue us from our sin and bring us into relationship with Him. The second thing that He brings peace. Knowing that God is with us, Emmanuel, gives us peace, even when life feels overwhelming. You know, this is one of the most important things that we have to realize, that God gives us peace through Jesus Christ, the Prince of Peace. See, we buy a lot of things in order for us to have a peace of mind. We buy insurance, we buy retirement, we buy a lot of we invest in our home, in our car, just to have that peace of mind that we are safe, we are well provided for, that our families would have something when we're gone. You see, we buy peace, but Jesus is offering us peace freely through His presence. And the third thing that He brings is joy. The joy that isn't based on circumstances, but on the truth that we are loved and known by God. You see, the world can offer us temporary joy, temporary hope, and temporary peace. But the joy, peace, and hope that Jesus is offering is everlasting. And there is nothing like the presence of Jesus in our lives. I've been a Christian for a long time. I've had this relationship with Jesus for a long time. And I tell you, the world can take everything from me. It will be painful, of course. If it takes away my family, if it takes away my job, takes away everything that I have, it will be painful, but I'll be okay because I have Jesus. So, how can we respond? How can we respond when Christmas feels heavy? Here are 3 practical steps I want you to take when you feel depressed, lonely, anxious this Christmas season. First, simplify. You have to simplify how you celebrate Christmas. Let go of the pressure to meet cultural expectations. Focus on meaningful traditions that remind you of Jesus. See, it's not wrong to give gifts. It's not wrong to decorate your home. It's not wrong to gather as a family. But if you're in debt because you want to give expensive gifts, then that's not healthy. If you're decorating your home just to please the people around you, your neighbors, the people who you want to visit you, then that's not healthy anymore. If the gathering of family causes more pain, more depression, more anxiety, then that's not healthy anymore. Simplify. Focus on meaningful traditions that leads you to worship Jesus. Reflect. This Christmas season, when you feel depressed, lonely, and anxious, spend time with God's Word, meditating on the story of Jesus' birth. Read Luke chapter 2. Luke chapter 2 is a wonderful passage. And ask God to renew your heart with the joy of the gospel. It's one of my favorite stories of the Christmas story. And then number 3, reach out. Christmas is a season to share God's love. If you're feeling lonely, connect with a church community or someone who might need encouragement. Remember, the weight of cultural expectations is not yours to carry. Jesus invites you to find rest in Him. As we close, let me leave you with this thought. Jesus didn't come to give us a picture-perfect holiday. He came to bring light to a broken world. If Christmas feels heavy, look to Him. He is the reason we celebrate, and He is the source of true joy, peace, and hope. Thank you for joining me today. I hope and pray that this have caused you to reflect and be encouraged. And if it did, please consider liking, subscribing, and commenting down below how I could pray for you. And this helps me a lot to spread the word, so that I can do more videos in the future. In our next episode, we'll dive deeper in God's promise of hope through the birth of Jesus. Until then, may His light shine brightly in your life this Christmas season. God bless you, and may you have a joyful, hopeful, and peaceful holiday.